So, how do you solve the problem? Technology is not always the answer, right? We tend to get enamored with technology because you can touch it, you can see it, you press a button, a light goes off, you get a number. I'd be very wary of somebody who's trying to push a particular technology on you. You know, the way we look at it is a prescription without a diagnosis is really malpractice. So you really need to understand what is the job to be done, what is the desired outcome that you need to achieve, and then how do you apply technology to achieve that outcome? And that's the approach we take. So really, if you start from the customer, what is it that the customer needs and wants? They want to understand, where's my problem and what do I need to do to solve it? So that comes from what we call actionable insights. So fuel marking can be a part of that. We have the markers and analyzers, which gives us a very efficient way to uniquely identify different products of fuel. But that, in and of and by itself, isn't going to help you solve your problem. What you want are the answers. So we have information systems that are going to collect data from testing that we may do on fuels, other sources of fuel volumes, of pricing, other information, pull that all together into systems so you could do some intelligent analysis and then deliver those actionable insights. Pulling it all together are services and support to make sure that you have a successful outcome. So I just want to talk a little bit more about fuel marking. So why would you mark fuels? Right? Well, first of all, cases where you want to mark fuel is sometimes it's otherwise impossible to differentiate the fuel or identify it. A common scheme is to subsidize certain fuels for things like agricultural use, mining. You may have subsidized diesel that goes for mining operations in some countries. Well, that subsidized diesel is going to look exactly like fully taxed diesel. There's no way you're going to be able to tell the difference because it's the same product. In that case, you'll have to mark the fuel in some way in order to differentiate it. Another reason you may want to mark fuel is you want to know very quickly and on the spot the identity of a fuel and if it's legitimate or if it's not legitimate. Right? So if you're at a fuel station and you want to know, is this the right quality fuel that's being sold? And I want to know right now, because if it's not, I want to shut down the station. You really need to have some kind of marker in the fuel to facilitate that, because if you don't, what it'll involve is you're going to have to take a sample, go back to a lab, do some kind of a chemical analysis on it, and by the time all those results come back, all of that bad fuel may have already been sold. So that's a case where fuel marking can really help. Another situation is just pure volume. You know, if you're concerned about the integrity and quality of fuel throughout a supply chain, you may not be able to have the time and the money to do extensive quality testing on all of the fuel going through that supply chain. But you can do quality testing on a bulk amount of fuel and then mark that fuel so that you know that what the quality of it is, and then essentially put a stamp of approval on it that you can quickly check in the field throughout the supply chain to make sure that that fuel is still good. Ultimately, it all comes down to money, right? So in many cases, marking the fuel and using that as a tool within a program is just cost effective and it makes sense, right? So when we start talking about fuel marking is not new, right? Since the 20s, overt visible dyes have been used to identify different fuel products, and they continue to be used today. That's evolved over the years into more covert technologies. And I have a little dirty secret to share with all of you. This technology, these covert technologies and marking technologies and detection technologies, is all analytical chemistry. It gets down to the basics of analytical chemistry, and there are various techniques and technologies that can be applied. Some of them rely on fluorescence, where you excite a marker either through X-ray energy or laser energy, and then you're able to determine a unique fingerprint from that marker. Some of them use molecular markers. Some of them use different types of recognition markers. The point being is that this technology is out there, and it's not necessarily what you have. It's more important what you know And how do I properly apply that technology? So let me just talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of marking programs and what makes them successful. It really starts with, what is the desired outcome of the program? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to protect a subsidized product? Are you trying to ensure quality throughout the supply chain? Are you trying to increase the collection of excise taxes? If so, by how much? If you're trying to stop smuggling, if so, by how much? And then you can figure out what is the proper prescription to achieve that desired outcome. So, adulteration, a common scheme where you have a subsidized product. So off-road diesel, for example, in the European Union. That product is marked. So this is the marked product, say that is subsidized diesel, and it goes into unmarked fuel. A very simple approach. You simply test the fully taxed supply chain to see that that marked fuel is not there. So what's important consideration here in a program like this? The identity of the marker here for the adulterant marker can be known. It doesn't have to be secret. Think about the Euro marker. The composition of the Euro marker is published. Why? Because a criminal doesn't want it. They don't want to put it in a fuel and make it look illegal. They want to remove it. And that's where launderability is important, right? So I show the example where there were laundering facilities in Northern Ireland to remove the visible dye. Well, the UK got smart and they added a non-launderable covert marker in there as well, the identity of which is known and it's published, but that's okay. What the criminals want to do is they want to remove it. Now, an alternate approach is you mark all of your good fuel. You could think of it as kind of like a tax stamp for fuel. You know that this fuel is good. I mark it to a known concentration, 100% level. When I test, if anything is below that, I know something's been introduced into there that is not part of the legitimate supply chain. So this gives you the most flexibility where you don't know the source of the adulteration or the source of the illegal activity. It could be smuggled fuel, it could be adulterants. It gives you the most flexibility, but you do have to mark the highest volume of fuel. In this case, you want to keep the identity of that marker that's going into the legitimate fuel a secret because the criminals want that marker. They want to steal it and they want to put it in fuel to make illegal fuel look legal. In this case, launderability is not as much of an issue because if you remove the marker from the fuel, essentially you're taking legal fuel and making it look illegal. Enforcement. Enforcement is probably the most important part of a program. So if you get all of this information, these actionable insights I'm talking about, you need to do something about it. You need to take action. So we've seen different approaches to this. You could take a very secretive, targeted approach, collect information, find out where the source of the problem is, and then take action. I use the analogy here where it is you're looking to not bust the drug dealer on the street, but move up his supply chain and take out the top supplier. This is an approach most of our commercial customers use. They don't want a lot of fanfare and a lot of attention that there's a potential issue with their product. So they want to keep it low key, and they just want to take care of the problem without much visibility and publicity. However, what we've seen to be more effective, and this is more common in government programs, is a big bang. Very visible program, a lot of sampling, a lot of testing, a lot of publicity, serves as a very powerful deterrent to illicit activity.